My name is Laura Mitchell. I am the CEO of Grand Care Systems. I have been with the organization. I am a founding member, so I've been with the organization for the better part of the last 16, almost 17 years. And it's truly amazing watching how the space has evolved throughout the last 16 and a half years. So it's great to be with you. I'd like Scott, my director of sales, to make an introduction of yourself.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Thanks for coming. I see some names that I definitely know very well, and other people that I don't know who you are, but feel free to reach out to us after, and maybe we'll do a demo with you. My name is Scott Feldstein. I'm the director of U.S. sales here at Grand Care, and I've been with Grand Care for 9 years. And prior to that, I spent about a decade in e-learning.
Okay, Shane.
Oh, hey, thanks, Laura. I'm Shane Ferguson. I'm the executive director for Carolina Residential Services. I've been in, the IDD field for almost 30 years, probably hence all the gray hair here. But we were introduced to Grand Care probably a little over about a year ago. So we've been very excited so far and everything that it's offered us and certainly the residents. So.
Great, Nora.
Hi, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I have been in health and aging services my entire career across many different healthcare settings and out in the community. I started one of the first older adult community care management programs back over 30 years ago when I started my career. And the whole goal was to keep people in their own homes and have them act services so they didn't end up in the hospital at the highest level of care. I was a director of case management for a health system and then moved over to an accountable care organization. And now I'm currently working with Everhome, Columbia, and we do private care management services. And we've incorporated what makes us separate from other private licensed home care services is we've incorporated technology into the plan of care and teach consumers and older adults how to be proactive in managing their own care.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Shane and Nora, for joining us today. It's certainly going to be invaluable to have your expertise, especially as both of you have been, implementing this technology into play. Shane, from more of a disability services standpoint, and Nora into the aging services, although I know you also do work with some disability services as well. So I think this will be very interesting. And please do feel free, if you're on this on the Zoom call or on social media, to direct questions to any of us, or to Shane or Nora specifically. If you have any questions, we will try to address it during, but if we don't, we will email you with any answers to especially more complicated questions. So first, let me just give you a little bit of a landscape of what we do. Just a really quick overview. Grand Care is a technology that's designed to help people stay independent, safe, happy, and healthy at home. So there is a touch screen that is at the point of care, whether in the resident's room or in the resident's home. And that is a source of information for them. It gives them their daily schedules. It gives them cognitive assist, time to do this, time to do that. It can break down complicated tasks into steps, how to make breakfast, how to get ready for work, different things depending on who that person is. If they're aging, they may need one set of cognitive assist, where if they're developmentally disabled, they may need another. So you can really customize it to their specific needs. Meanwhile, family and friends and care providers can video chat into the touchscreen. They can also message, share videos, share instructions. So that can be especially helpful if they're transitioning from hospital to home and have a number of instructions that they need to follow, or daily tasks, or wound management, or even just, remembering to take their medications. A variety of sensors can be placed around the home, everything from motion and temperature sensors to telehealth devices like blood pressure device, weight scale, pulse oximeter, glucometer, in-ear thermometer. And all of those sensors can display, I should say, be recorded and share information with designated caregivers. So you can set up alert rules to be notified. And Scott, you can go to the next slide, to be notified if something occurs. So if someone doesn't get out of bed in the morning, if they don't leave for work, if they don't access the fridge at mealtime, and they can also check in every day. There's a check-in button right on the touchscreen, and they can check in every morning and night. And the care providers can also drop in on the video chat. So what do you do with that? Well, you set up a series of rules, and then the caregivers, the professional caregivers, can actually manage and claim those alerts. So they can say, I got this alert and here's what happened. And it really keeps the family and the professional care provider, if there's a professional involved, really just in the know. It's very transparent. It ensures accountability. So that's a little bit about Grand Care, and I will get off my soapbox and try to let the experts who are actually implementing this into their care programs share a little bit more. But the first thing we want to talk about is how you make a plan for this. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of share a little bit about it, and then I'm going to open it to Shane, Scott, and Nora to talk a little bit more about it. So when you're creating your plan, a lot of you are on this because you want to do some type of technology. You know it's a good idea. You know there are staffing shortages. Technology can obviously help in that way. But how do you do it? And some of the problems that we see is when people create a plan, they want to go from 0 to 1,000. They don't want to start in incremental stages. And that would be something that I'd like Shane and Nora to share a little bit about, is how do you plan for this? How do you create a strategy to get started?
Well, I can answer about what we did. The first thing that we did is we had to, get the comfort of staff and make sure that they're really behind it and they really believe in the concept. If they're technology naysayers, and there are those out there that are afraid of technology, we really wanted to identify who are going to be the strong people and who are going to be the people that might need a little bit of a boost in that, because what we wanted to present is a positive mindset, because we know that the population that we deal with is we have a lot of ageism out there, and a lot of people thinking that older adults can't learn new technology. And that was what we spent time on, is talking about that, getting people on board with their own culture and in touch, and then comfortable with the technology. And then what we did is assign champions, because you need a leader. You need somebody that's a very positive, can-do attitude, and a go-to person to look at what they're going to do in terms of when problems do arise. And there's going to be hiccups along the way. So that's the first big step, is having that goal that everybody knows what we're doing. Because the thing that I said over and over is, there's no home care. We know that. Home care has just come off a big COVID experience. People are burned out in that, but these problems aren't going away overnight. And we have to look at technology as helping to support caregivers and supplementing, not a replacement for home care, but this can be a big support for home care staff, as well as for the caregivers. And caregivers will go above and beyond each and every time. So won't older adults, when they know they have support and it's there and they're not going to be left high and dry.
Right.
Okay,
Thanks.
great. And Shane, do you have any additional insight to add? You don't have to add it right here if you don't want to, but
for us, it was, it's a little different for us. I think for us, it was almost, going into survival mode, with the pandemic as it came along, and this field of work's always been challenging, and it certainly always presented a number of challenges, but with the pandemic, it just seemed like those challenges multiplied, especially the staffing, and those, of course, still exist today and for us, it was just trying to identify a system that was going to allow us to stay viable and be able to keep, somewhere for our our residents to live, and it's helped do that, and it's helped them realize a lot of dreams too, which I know we'll touch on later. But we're a smaller company, so for us, I guess the champions were kind of the owner, myself, and the residential director. But yeah, I mean, just for us, getting to know the system itself, and like you said, I mean, when you first get the system in your hand, it does so much, and you realize how much it can do, but honestly, scaling back on that and trying to familiarize yourself with the system and starting small and just kind of building from there, it was really important for us.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. So here's a sample plan, that we came up with here. And, this is We Care Services, who has a team captain, and that team captain is going to take care of doing the 8-hour training. So Grand Care, we'll go into this a little bit, has pretty specific online training that's 8 hours of good stuff with tests in there and certifications. And it's all, it's great for the captain to sort of know it all and then be able to share with, different staff members don't need to know every aspect of it. They need to know which parts they're responsible for, and also team planning a little bit, because what might be good for Shane's organization may not be right for your organization. But, of course, we can take bits and pieces and learn from each one and see what fits for your mold. So, of course, we say that if you can monitor them in their own current homes and situations first, get them comfortable with the technology, and then move into the new environment. That's great, because it's nice to not say, okay, so you're going to move from your home into a place, a brand new place. Maybe you've been in this home for 20 years and you're moving to a brand new place, and we're going to give you this new technology and all this stuff. So it's helpful to get it in there while they're still in an existing location. And Scott, feel free to add in.
Yeah, I just wanted to add also that it's important to get a person familiar with the technology before their existing support model changes, right? You want to get that technology in their hand, let them get used to it, see how it works, but not yet change their existing support model. And that may be having a lot of in-person supports. It's only after they become familiar with that, then you maybe start to cut back on some of those.
Well, exactly. So as we go along here, please feel free to ask questions, and we can address them at the end. So we get these questions all the time about technology first, and I know a lot of you, if your states are not currently technology first states, have asked us, how do I become a technology state? What is it? How do I lobby? Who do I lobby to become a technology first state? So, what is technology first? Well, it's just a statewide commitment, and it was actually started by Ohio. Governor John Kasich was the first one who established that his state was a technology first state. And that just means that you're going to use resources towards technology first. You're going to turn to technology first before deploying other things. So that technology could be medication management dispenser, it could be a remote patient monitoring, it could be a personal emergency response system. It's just utilizing technology before you go towards in-person supports. And the thing to remember is that it's not one or the other. We like to say that Grand Care just really amplifies caregiving. We're sort of like the microphone and PA system for the singer, right? If you're a caregiver, you're still going to caregive. But if you're utilizing a technology like Grand Care, now you can reach so many more people at once, or in a shorter span of time. You save the windshield time of having to drive to multiple places. You also save the time of having to go somewhere when maybe just a 5-minute check-in on a video chat will be sufficient. So the notion of technology first is to using technology to improve quality of life, of course, increase independence. And this specifically, technology first, is geared towards the disability market.
Right.
If I could add one thing, I think
Sure.
one of the great tools for us is looking at how much time does an older adult really need. And with these supports in, the technology in, we don't need the 8 hours of home care. We need somebody in the morning to help them get up and get dressed and get their day started, set them up, and then they can go about their business throughout the day and then check in again at night. This has been a tremendous relief for caregivers because we have a to-go app that it's basically the same things. It's integrated with GrandCare, and they, the caregivers can go about their day doing errands and check in. And that's the same thing for aides. We check in from a video link, especially for rural older adults. It's our case managers that check in via video call, and it does save us time on home visits.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. So we'd love to hear, we're going to tell you a little bit more about what we know about funding. And then Shane and Nora, if you have any comments or ideas, because I know that this is a complicated subject because a lot of it is state by state. So Scott, do you want to go ahead and share just a little bit about what some of the options are?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm going to be talking a little bit on the Medicaid side mostly. And as Laura said, every state tends to do their Medicaid waiver program differently, which means if you've seen one state's Medicaid waiver program, you've seen one state's Medicaid waiver program. But the good news is that all the people that I've dealt with in all the states that they live in, I've never yet, knock on wood, run into a situation where Medicaid does not pay for the kind of assistive technology that GrandCare represents. And let's look at that. So the main things that you're going to be looking for in a Medicaid waiver to cover things like remote monitoring and remote support technology is, as I've listed here, assistive technology, remote supports is often the language they use, and also home and community-based services. Sometimes it falls under that too, because this is the kind of technology that they need to achieve that kind of living situation. I do have an example here of a waiver that's here in Wisconsin, where I'm located. You can see this is the IRIS waiver here in Wisconsin. And you know what? Don't read all that stuff. I already did it for you. It's the assistive technology, home modification, even it can fall under individual directed goods and services, and also specialized medical equipment and supplies, especially if you're doing things like telehealth with GrandCare. But that's Medicaid. There are also grants. There are a lot of state grants that we've seen. I don't know if there's as many federal grants, but a lot of state grants out there to implement technology like this. And also there's obviously private funding. There's groups like, the Autism Association and other groups like that that are dedicated to helping the disabled live more independently. And they're often interested in funding these kinds of efforts too. So before I move on, though, I know that Shane and Nora have some additional thoughts about how this all gets paid for.
Well, for us, what we've done is we were able to secure private funding through an organization that would enable us to do a pilot program for the rural elderly. And it's home for the aged. And they have been tremendously supportive and provided us with funding so that we could meet the needs of residents in Columbia County. So we're doing that pilot project now, and we have the absolute 100% support of our New York State Office for Aging. So we're working with them on different funding opportunities, because our goal is that through the pilot project, we'll be able to demonstrate cost savings and positive outcomes in terms of quality and greater efficiency. And then we can get community support in terms of Medicare and Medicaid. So we're right now in that phase of we're 6 months into a 24-month pilot in Columbia County.
Really interesting.
Okay.
And I think for us, Scott, you mentioned Medicaid, and for some, we do have the innovations waiver here. I know it does pay for home modifications and certain things like that. But for us, we were pretty fortunate to and able to use some of the COVID funding to kind of start the assistive technology, for Carolina residential.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, I'd forgotten that. Very cool.
There is also the ability, Medicare will cover some under home modifications. We've seen that. We've seen long-term care insurance paying specifically for this technology when individuals have submitted the claim to their long-term care insurance provider. But yeah, we've seen under Medicare, it's more telehealth services, right? So any of the monitoring that you're providing, and under home modifications for the actual remote patient monitoring system.
Right. Thanks, Laura. Now I'm just going to say a few things about what we at Grant Care think about different approaches to training up your staff. Number one is that here at Grant Care, we do offer our customers comprehensive online training that your staff can jump into. It's self-paced. They can do it anytime they want. So if you get new people in, they can get trained up right away. We also, and by we, not necessarily me, although maybe, can come to you. We can come out to your location for 2 or 3 days and do some on location training for you. And that's often really good for a situation where if Grant Care is going to come in and train and certify a small number of people in your organization, those people can then turn around and train their staff and only train them in the things that they really need to know about, rather than absolutely everything, which is the train the trainer model. I always like to throw in that it's a really good idea to use Grant Care in your own home. And a lot of people raise eyebrows at that. But you shouldn't. Everyone here at Grant Care uses Grant Care in their home, including me, including Laura. And so we know how this stuff works, and we use it every day in our own homes. So don't dismiss that. That's a really quick way to learn how some of this stuff works. And the other thing that we do is it's standard procedure at Grant Care that when we are onboarding a new customer and they're getting ready to deploy Grant Care units to the people they serve, we set up, and Shane and Nora can back me up on this, we set up standing weekly meetings. Just so that you always know that on Tuesday afternoon, you're going to be able to come to us with any questions that you have. And if you need to cancel because you haven't got any, that's cool too. But we make that space for everybody when they're first deploying their Grant Care systems.
That has been invaluable because you have the different staff members there and they all have different questions, but the opportunity to talk about it because it's shared. Well, I never thought of that. And then it also gives you ideas of, I wonder if we can have it do this. And, if there's always opportunities for tweaking. And the other thing that we do is we incorporate the consumer's feedback as we go out. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from the people that are out in the homes using it, both the caregivers and the older adults.
Right.
Yeah, I think the slide right there, Scott, says a lot of what we did. I mean, when we were fortunate enough to get a couple of systems when we first started, and our owner Susan, myself both had one, and she was in one place, I was the other, and I don't know how much time we spent going back and forth amazed with each other about the different things they could do, and a lot of that we learned from the online training that you talked about. I mean, it's a good training. It's not hard, but I definitely do recommend doing that. It does familiarize you with the system, and it answers a lot of the questions. I know when we were going back and doing stuff, we would go back to that training and play the videos and rewatch them, I don't know, 10 different times on something until we got it. But it is a good training, and we're kind of fortunate. We've got a couple of different things we're doing right now. We have a training center set up with Grant Care's set up, and that's actually, you guys came to that, Scott, you and I think Charlie came and worked with us there on that. It was a really cool thing because you guys showed us how to do some neat things there, and we've been able to incorporate that with some of the systems we're using currently. And we also are working on a model home that's going to have Grant Care throughout and it'll give people the opportunity to come and see some of the stuff that Grand Care can do, in conjunction with other technology that we're using. But we're excited about that, and we're currently working on a new PSR in Marion, and going to have a independent learning center there, and Grand Care is going to be set up there with motion sensors and different things that it can do. And we're really excited about that because we're going to be able to teach some of the people that are participants in the PSR to come and learn independence. We talk about teaching independence all the time, but we're really excited about what that's going to afford us and them, because they're going to actually get to see the system and learn how it works and see if it could help them, live more independently. So we're excited about those three things for us.
One of the
Yeah,
things that,
and go ahead. Go ahead.
one of the things that we did is we set up like dummy clients, and then we used the plan of care, and then had the system set up so that we could talk to one another, and that's great for home care agency, especially if they have like a CHF protocol, a diabetic protocol, standards of what they have and quality measures, and look at that so that it gives you great opportunity to say, okay, when we're go out into a home with a client, then they can pull this up so that they know what they need to do to take care of themselves, in addition to the sensors and Bluetooth devices. So it's setting that up and getting that experience under your belt before you do a real actual rollout, I think is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. And thanks for your compliments on the online training, Shane. For those of you that don't know, all of that training is narrated by yours truly. So it's extra smooth.
You got a great voice. Like
He's
a
our
Sidney Poitier
1-900
voice.
What's funny is I just said to somebody, he's our 1-900 Grand Care voice. And I realized that they didn't, they were younger than we are, and they didn't know what that meant. And I didn't know how to explain it either. So it was okay.
So we should maybe just drop it there. But I wanted to let you look at what some of that training looks like. So here's just the introduction to our online course. And on the right, you can see the different modules that we have, dividing different subjects areas up. And a lot of this is video instruction. And they're high quality videos, like you see here, that explain exactly how you use this equipment, exactly how you use the Grand Care software, and so on.
And I will also say that this is something that we learned at Grand Care. It's been 17 years of learning and integrating and morphing and changing and adding and taking away. And we've always been a heavy client-driven business because, the industry didn't move as quickly as any of us thought it would. So we've been very fortunate to work together very closely with our clients and, build kind of what they needed and try to work out solutions and help them figure out exactly to implement the technology in a meaningful and smart way. And so what we really learned, the most important thing that we ever did was set up weekly calls with all of our clients. So every single one of our clients has weekly calls set up with us where we go through implementation strategies with them. But not only that, when our clients first start installing, either we head out there and we install the first 10 with them, or we're just on video chat, on Zoom calls, on FaceTime, or on video chat through the Grand Care, just walking them through everything, because the first experiences that the customer has with the technology will be critical. And so making sure that it works from the get-go and that all the kinks are worked out in your offices ahead of time. You don't want to go into a resident's home and install it for the first time and do staff training there. So you want to make sure that your staff feels very confident. And if your staff is confident, then the resident will be confident. And so it just becomes, this is the service that we offer. And I thought it was interesting, Nora, too, when you were saying that, a lot of your folks are comfortable with the technology, but sometimes it's maybe the daughter or the son that feels like mom or dad aren't going to be comfortable with technology, when really that's what you found has not been the case.
Yeah, what they automatically say is, oh, they haven't touched technology and they never will. And we just say, well, you know what? Let us determine that. We'll hold their hand and we'll guide them. And they've been totally amazed that they have adopted it.
Yeah, we've had similar experiences, but this population has, I think, don't discount the aging or disability service population as not liking technology, because we have just found, especially for a generation that has gone from walking to flying in their lifetime, and they use technology every single day in every way, from watching TV to driving in cars to heating and cooling systems. I mean, we're all using technology that at one point was new. And I think that it really is a matter of presentation versus whether or not they're going to use any type of technology. Shane, do you have any comments on that?
No, I mean, just I think you're right. I mean, I think for some of us, that was or I don't know that they'll adjust to that, or I don't know that they can do that. It was kind of unique for us during COVID. We were able, a lot of our residents chose to buy iPads, so they were kind of they kind of had a leg up on a lot of people and they absolutely loved it. And there was some, to be honest, I even thought myself, I don't think she'll ever use this or he'll ever use this. And they're the ones that love it more than anybody. You honestly have to pry it out of their hands to get them to eat lunch and dinner. So it's amazing how quickly they will, pick up technology and just absolutely love it, more than you ever think is possible, really.
I think
Sure.
a common goal is important to establish right up front. And what we always say is what's most important to you. And that older adult will say, I want to stay in my own home. Okay. So are you willing to, if we teach you, are you willing to learn how to use the tools, and we'll guide you? And they said, I'll do whatever it takes to stay at home. And they're on board with it. And you have to communicate a sense of positivity that they are capable, because I think we perceive people as not being capable when really we haven't even given them that chance.
Yeah, yeah, and that leads into our next subject, which is really one of the things that you can do to really make sure that adoption is going really well, is to personalize that technology for that individual. And it's important to do that for a whole variety of reasons, but which we'll also get to. But let's just talk for a minute about how do you decide who is going to be the first people in your organization to transition from a high in-person support care hours to maybe somebody that's relying more on remote monitoring and remote support? How do you decide who those people are? Obviously, you need to look at their particular support profile. Obviously, Grand Care is not right for everybody. If you need 24/7 medical supervision, then you're not going to do remote monitoring or remote support, at least not in the way that we intend it here. And the other thing is, do they want to? Right? That's key. Because if they don't want to, then there's really not any point to doing that. If somebody's really comfortable with the support that they're receiving right now in the way that they're receiving it, and they don't want to change, then they shouldn't change. Other key items here can be, do they have any familiarity with technology in the first place? They don't need to, but it's sometimes helpful if they do. And that leads us to a more complicated subject, which is family. Family is always a complicated subject, whether you're young or old. It's important that your family be on board, but I would say it's not absolutely necessary. People make their own decisions about what they want to do and how they want to live their life, but it's that can be a struggle. And I'll let our panelists share a little bit more about that, if you would.
Well, what we do is we look at who is the support system of that older adult. And, we do require that they be self-directed. This is not going to work if you have somebody that has advanced dementia. It can be a support to help the home care that's in the home, and a support to caregivers so that they can connect, even if they're out of state, and help support that caregiver that's in the home. But we engage the family and ask them, the client, who they want to be involved and be a caregiver so that they can interact with them. And then we always put ourselves on as that support to get notifications and things like that. I find that the caregivers appreciate it because it's giving them ongoing guidance, and they're not being left out in the dark when there's a crisis. And again, older adults, I'll give an example. We had a 99-year-old who was not in the technology, said, I don't want it, I don't want it. And we said, but we want you to be able to connect with your children at any time. So what we did is we set up the video component, and boy, she loves it. And she uses it, and it keeps her connected to the family. And now she plays, the certain word games, and does Tai Chi. And, she says, I don't know what I would have done, without it. The day goes by so much faster. I'm not here just alone by myself. I can call my daughter when I want to. So those are very important things to engage and prevent further deterioration of mental status and anxiety and depression.
And Shane, how are you selecting some of your residents? I mean, have you found that, it's a certain set of cognitive abilities that do better with this type of technology, or is it some people that need help with certain assists that do better? How do you choose who's right for this?
It's funny. It really is person centered, and I know we throw that word around a lot in this field of work. But we've had the I guess the luxury of knowing we've had a lot of our residents have lived with us for a long time, and in the residential setting, of course, some level of independence is usually the goal for all of them. But like I said, us having the advantage of knowing our guys for a long time, we kind of had an idea through programming and just general meetings and discussions with their families. But the funny thing about that is some of the people we've had, we've had so many success stories already with Grand Care in just the year we've been using it. But we've had a couple of people that have lived in group homes for over 40 years that was told they would never live in anything but a group home. They're living in their own apartment now. We've
That's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. We had one family that was adamantly against it because their person just could absolutely not do it, and they're probably one of our biggest champions now that believe in it. So honestly, it's just seeing if it's going to fit the right person, because it fits so many different needs. It's not just one. It's not just, well, it's a big screen that can monitor stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different things it can do. And honestly, I think back to what you said earlier, just kind of familiarizing yourself. You only know what you know, or you don't know what you don't know. And, being able to familiarize yourself with what it can do, and then being able to offer that to them, and then letting them decide if it's something that they want to take advantage of, kind of like Scott said earlier. But yeah, we've had a lot of success stories really early on. So it's been really neat to see people realize something that they never thought would be possible for them.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's really inspirational.
That's great. So, you look at some of these folks that need the support in one way or another. So when they come to you and you sort of give them an assessment and say, this person needs, supports with taking medication. This person needs supports maybe with, bedtime routine, or supports with getting ready for work, or whatever that is, or maybe just with communicating with family and friends, loneliness and isolation. So, what we look at from a Grand Care standpoint is using the technology to sort of fill in the needs, to address the needs in conjunction with human touch, in conjunction with caregiving. So are there things that the technology can do that can save a trip to that person? Or are there things that the technology can do to help that person help themselves, enable, empower them so that they can utilize the technology like you and I may use our phone to wake us up in the morning. We don't need somebody else to do that. We can have our phones do it. Like, are there ways that the technology can play a role as just one piece in the puzzle? And I think that's a takeaway that I want to make clear is that just because the technology, as you go through the training with Grand Care and with a lot of these other technologies, it can do a lot. And so, just because it can do a lot doesn't mean that you should have it do every single thing it can do. And instead of using the technology and applying it towards a person, we like to do it the other way around and say, this person needs support with these three things. How can the technology support them? And how can we fit this into the model and just start with what they need, and build out, because it can be overwhelming. And of course, you only want to set up the alerts that you need to know. So if this person takes their oximeter reading every day, great, but you don't need to have a message or a text message sent to you to let you know that they've done it. You more want to know if they haven't done it, or you want to know if their oximeter reading is below, maybe they've got COPD, or maybe they've got asthma, and you want to know if their pulse oximetry reading is below a certain number, like 93. If it's below that, then I'm going to have one of my clinical advisors video chat in, and we're going to determine next steps, to avoid a potential ER visit. So talk to that, Nora, Shane, about what some of the ways that you take the client and, you typically assess them as you would for your services, but what extra things do you do with the technology in mind?
Well, what we do is we do that individualized assessment. It's very comprehensive. We look at, their emotional, social connection, their family support, in addition to the medical and needs and what their interests are. And we talk to them about what's important to them. And then we set up, that care plan, and it's automated. And it's on Grand Care. And the 99-year-old that I was talking about, for her, medications were important, to make sure that she took the medicine, and she established a routine each morning, because she was forgetting her medicine. So getting up and checking in on Grand Care and the medication reminders has been phenomenal for her. Other people, the other client that we had was has a lot of anxiety, and she was caregiver for her husband. And what she was doing is we noticed a change in her behavior where she was highly anxious, and she was like she forgot to give him lunch one day. And we were looking, and we put the monitors in, the sensors in, and we found that she was up all night, because anytime her husband stirred, she was up checking on him. And so that was a big aha for the daughter. And we addressed that, and changed the routine around and got her on an anti-anxiety med. And she was far better. So, you got to have individualized tools, and you also have to know that when you have one problem and resolve, then you start to notice another problem, like a urinary tract infection. I had a client that was very prone to urinary tract infection, and we noticed a change in her behavior. So, it changes over time. But the initial assessment and looking at the total picture, not just, if I just looked at physical and did a care plan on just the physical and not the psychosocial, and didn't note the anxiety, that would really skew, I think, what our plan of care is going to be. And it's a missed opportunity, because what we were able to do with this woman that had anxiety is get her engaged in using the meditation programs, in addition to, being on an anti-anxiety, but dealing with that anxiety so that it wasn't such a negative impact for her.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome. And I think, Shane, do you have anything to add about assessments?
I mean, honestly, not really. I mean, like you said, I mean, earlier, it just, I mean, honestly, knowing the person and being person centered with it, and just, and it just does so much for different people, and just making sure it fits their needs. But one of the unique things for us, and that we've talked about, especially people in the residential setting, and it's a good training model also, is even if they're not ready to make the leap to independence, just having them in your current residential facilities and the different way it can start supporting them as well. That's another thing that we've talked about, is we feel like it can help them too, and it helps them familiarize themselves with the technology, and so it's kind of a win-win for everyone. I think, like we talked about earlier, starting small, because when you start delving into it, you want to be able to let it do everything for everyone, and kind of learning. I think we've learned that we had so many rules at first, and we were getting so many notifications and things that as they started living and getting more used to the technology, we started realizing that they might not need all that. We were able to kind of back down on some of that. So just kind of knowing the person and doing that.
I got to just tell you a quick story. We set up a care plan, and these were lay people, and they were friends of this older adult. And I put on the care plan to make sure that they ambulate the client every day. And we noticed and kept getting alerts that they weren't ambulating the client. So I called up and said, I'm a little concerned because I noticed in the past, 3 or 4 days that you're not ambulating the client. And the caregiver said, well, what do you mean? I said, are you getting her up and walking her? And she said, oh, yes, we walk her to and from the bathroom several times a day. And I said, well, then why aren't you documenting that? She goes, oh, is that what ambulation means? I said, touche. So that little thing, it could have been interpreted like they're non-compliant. And it was just, okay, we got to tweak and change the verbiage on the care plan. So, I mean, it's just unbelievable what you learn along the way.
Well, for sure. And, here's an example of John, 28 years old. Now, this happens to be in the disability industry. He's highly independent. He lives with his parents right now, but he wants to live alone. All he needs are some gentle reminders and then some remote supports. I mean, there's some definitely difficulties with his parents letting him live alone because he's never been independent before. So what they do is they put a grand care system into his home, and they put it in his room, but then they put a couple other grand care systems throughout the community, because we do have mirroring systems that can communicate with one another, so that you can have 3 systems. So no matter where he is in the home, that he's still active and able to see his notifications. It's time for you to do this, time for you to do that. And so his parents, along with his care provider, have set it up so that he does have a one-touch access to video chat with his family and his direct support. He also does have an alarm that notifies him in the morning when he wakes up to check in on his touchscreen. And then he also has the same thing at night. The reminder alerts will make a sound, and it also will turn on a specific colored light in his living room. So if he doesn't hear it, he'll know that he's got a reminder to take a look at. And that could be a medication reminder, or it could be a reminder like it's time to start getting ready for work, or it could be a reminder that it's time to start thinking about what you're going to make for dinner and start that meal prep. And Scott, next slide. And so what they've done is they've created a plan. They've decided that they're going to have a touchscreen in the bedroom and not 2 touchscreens in the kitchen, a touchscreen in the bedroom, 1 touchscreen in the kitchen, and 1 touchscreen in the game room. And so he will then also have a blood pressure device, because he does need to take his blood pressure reading. And then he needs just 3 motion sensors that will be in his bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom that will indicate a potential problem, or indicate that he's gotten out of bed if his parents are worried about it. And one of the things that with John's parents is that his mom was pretty concerned about him living independently. And John was pretty annoyed that his mom wanted to call him all the time and find out if he's doing okay when he really wanted to be independent. So the system allowed her to sort of be checking in and make sure that everything was going well without bothering him. And so she was able to do it. It also he'd have a front door sensor that could indicate if and when he left for work, and make sure that he got back from work, and make sure that the door wasn't left open in the middle of the night. Those types of things. So he's got a plan with his We Care remote support staff that he will check in at between 8:30 and 9, and then he'll check his daily schedule on the touchscreen. And he's got tasks to complete throughout the day. Some are complicated, so they have multiple steps to them, like frying an egg. Remember, you've got to put the cooking spray in the pan first, then you do this, then you do that. And so he checks them off, and then he's got bathroom tasks, medication and vitals, reminder to, of course, brush his teeth and shower. And then he does request his ride from the touchscreen itself. So he requests, when he's ready, he requests the ride, and then that goes right to the transportation service provider, and then they'll come and pick him up. He leaves for work. During lunch, he's not home. He's not by his touchscreen to receive his message that it's time for him to take lunch medications, but he does have a cell phone, and they've set it up so that if he doesn't check it off on the touchscreen, it'll send a text message to him so he can still comply with his medications. And then, of course, at the end, he's got evening tasks followed by a check-in for bedtime and bedtime tasks. So this is an example of a plan that they've used with the Grand Care system and some simple technology equipment that can help them to keep him more independent, and they can be alerted if he doesn't complete his tasks, or, if anything seems amiss. If he doesn't get out of bed in the morning, what's going on? Is he feeling sick? Is he just really tired? Did he not sleep in his bed? Things that they can sort of intervene only when necessary.
Oh, this is
So
a big
this
subject.
is
Do you want to
the
start on this,
last
Laura, or do you want me
yeah,
to go?
I think go ahead and really engage our panelists on this one. This is sort of, how do I staff this? What do I need to do to get started? And before you even start, I just want to say that I think people overthink this issue sometimes, where you can start small, and then as you need staffing, you can sort of figure it out. Like, the idea behind the system is to not have a million alerts. Otherwise, your alerts aren't right. You want to have alerts so that you're only notified of outliers. And if outliers are occurring every single day, then you really need to up the care. If someone's not taking their medications ever, well, maybe you do need to have someone video chat in and watch them take their medications, or even go over there. But this can help you to determine that. So, Scott, Shane, Nora, do you have anything to share about how you are staffing?
Well, what we did, and we're kind of different because we're a startup, company. We started, our private LLC after we originally were in a attorney's office. So what we did is we added staff, but we looked at, what the volume would be for the pilot that we're doing. And that was why we added staff. But what we did is we hired a tech specialist so that they could handle all of the non-clinical pieces, the technology pieces. We really have found that the case manager goes out, does her initial assessment, and the only thing that we're asking her to do extra is to look at what technology she feels that person would benefit. And then she identifies, she does the talking with the client, gets her approval, does the talking with the caregivers. And we try to make the caregiver, the family member, the first line of support with getting alerts. And we talk about what kind of alerts they want to get. And we kind of take on the emergency alerts. If there's something suddenly that happens, we really want to know about. So that's how we've divided the responsibilities, and it's worked out well. So we haven't added any new care managers, but we did add a tech specialist, and I did add an operations manager. But in a home care situation, home care is always divided into different, depending on how large the home care agency is, different sections, like, team A, team B, team C. And what I envision is those home care supervisors would be the liaison in those emergency notifications. It would enable them to check on throughout the day instead of that nurse always calling from the field. That nurse would be able to, a supervisor would be able to see what's going on. And it would actually reduce the inefficiencies. So when you gain, you think everybody says, oh, we don't have money for extra staffing. It's how do you repurpose what you're doing and incorporate it into your daily routine? And there's a lot of ways of doing that. And we found when we first started, what we really needed was a tech to get all the non-clinical off our plates and handle the tech issues and the getting back and resolving those short-term issues.
I think, for us, being a smaller organization, and like I said earlier, it's a little different for us. We were doing the pilot at the apartment setting there, and myself, the owner, and the residential director, we put ourselves there for all the alerts coming to us, and we're still doing that. Just because we just kind of have the need to know thing right now, and we want to make sure they're succeeding, and they are. They're doing phenomenal. Long term, we are planning on having a virtual monitoring center, and we actually have a center set up for that now, where we're hoping to be able to monitor multiple sites, and maybe even work with different providers and assisting them with monitoring and things of that nature. So doing some shared staff and stuff like that. So we've got some long-term bigger plans in the future, but we're just kind of starting small and still trying to become experts at it ourselves before we take other steps.
Nice.
Excellent. Well, I want to remind you that you can reach out to us anytime here. You can reach out to Grand Care. I think Hans just put it in the chat. And also, you're welcome to reach out to us for the recording of this. Just send a message to sales@grandcare.com, consulting session, and answering any questions that you may have. I hope that you've enjoyed today's webinar. It always feels too short. Shane and Nora, thank you so much. It was really helpful for you to share this information, and I always enjoy talking with both of you. And Scott, I enjoy talking with you too. And so,
I enjoy you guys also.
That's a good thing. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks
for
everybody.
participating. Thanks for coming.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks.